Right. Well, thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries. Whether you're feeling overextended or struggling with balancing your personal and or professional life, this webinar is going to be designed to give you some tools, insight, and confidence to set clear and healthy boundaries that can help protect your well-being and foster stronger and more balanced relationships.
Nice.
So boundaries, which we do have them, and a lot of times we may not necessarily know that we've set that boundary, but also just kind of redefining that. So it's our guidelines that we set for how we want to be treated in our relationships, how we interact with the world, and how we protect our time, our energy, and our well-being.
And I think that probably changes over
Yeah.
time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Your boundaries are always going to be changing as you age, depending on the environment, who you're around, your work environment as well. You're going to be changing those boundaries. And even in like relationships, you may have more strict boundaries at like the beginning of the relationship, but over time, because that trust is built and you have such a solid foundation, that those maybe stricter boundaries start to lessen a little bit, because they're not maybe needed, or there could be new boundaries that are put in place as well. So with these boundaries, kind of why they're important, right? Why they matter. It helps prevent burnout, reduce resentment, and helps you maintain a sense of control in your life. They're essential for emotional health, mental clarity, and physical well-being. And there's different types of boundaries. So you have the physical, which is like your personal space, your bubble, right? Um, Physical touch and the respect for your body. That's kind of where that consent comes in, as well. Emotional, that's protecting your feelings and your emotional needs. Mental, respecting your thoughts, opinions, and decisions, as we're all individuals, and being able to, even if we don't agree, right, it's still showing that respect to each other.
Right.
And then the last one is time. It's how you spend your time and prioritizing your responsibilities as well.
Yeah, because I've read the 5 love languages before,
Yeah.
and my love language is time. And I
Mine's
feel like
totally
that
time.
okay, so I feel like that kind of coincides with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the way you like to be shown love. That's how
Right.
you feel love, how you receive love, is your partner, your loved ones, family, friends spending quality time with you, but them respecting that time as well. Because you're going to, if someone's not respecting your time, they're wasting your time, they're showing up late to something that you invited them to, that could be a boundary for you,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because wasting my time is just as much of a big deal as spending time with me that is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I love this quote. The only people who get upset about you setting a boundary are the ones who are benefiting from you not having any boundaries. And so it's really important that we do set those boundaries so that people don't take advantage of us, right? So I love that quote. Wanted to share that. So being able to identify your boundaries, do you know, like, very clear, like maybe what some of your boundaries are? Or are you kind of like, I don't really know what my boundaries are?
I mean, I'll say some. I feel like most of the time, like when I've learned them, it's because something's happened and I like realize it in that moment that I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. it
So,
can be hard to recognize what your boundaries are. And sometimes it does take you experiencing something that helps you to realize, that made me feel uncomfortable. And that's where you kind of recognize that that's a boundary that you're
right.
okay with, right? So I'm going to walk you through recognizing some situations where your boundaries may have been crossed or where you struggle to assert them. So, recognizing your boundaries have been crossed is an essential first part to actually setting those healthy boundaries. Many of
Mm,
us don't even realize that our limits are being tested until we feel overwhelmed, until we're exhausted or are feeling resentful. So, identifying these situations can help you become more aware of your needs and allow you to take proactive steps to protect your well being. So, here are some ways that you can recognize when your boundaries might be crossed or that you're struggling to assert them. So, emotional signs, feeling angry, frustrated about a situation, right? Or maybe you're feeling guilty or there's like some shame. You could be feeling mentally or emotionally drained. Those are signs, emotional signs that there's a boundary there that either you already have set and someone's crossing it, or that's a sign for you that I need to set a boundary with this person or this situation. It could be a work situation, even, right? That is making you feel mentally, emotionally drained. That's where you need to recognize that you may need to set a boundary there. That
yeah.
maybe it's a work-life balance that's off. And just recognizing that. There's also physical signs, fatigue and physical exhaustion, stress symptoms. If you're getting a lot of headaches, having increased anxiety, I encourage you to pause and kind of assess and take a look around your surroundings. Is it certain situations that you start noticing a pattern that every time you're around a certain person or in a certain situation that you're getting anxiety? Well, maybe that's your body telling you, like, you need to set a boundary here. Maybe that's someone that you need to cut off and not have in your life. Um, Headaches, that could be something to signal to you that you need to pay attention to the environment. I know some people are susceptible to smoke, right? So if you're getting constant headaches because you're around someone that smokes, that is a signal to you to set a boundary that, hey, I appreciate and I value our friendship, but when I'm around you, would you mind not smoking around me because it causes me headaches? That's a way to set a clear boundary there. Mental signs. So if you're constantly overthinking or ruminating on something, that is actually a sign that your boundaries are not clear. So if you're ruminating on something, constantly overthinking about something, that is giving you a sign that your boundary, whatever it is not clear. So I invite you to sit down, really think about that, whatever you are ruminating and overthinking about. Sit down and write out, journal how you can make it more clear on that boundary. It may be that you're needing to express it clearer with a partner, with a friend, could be a family member, um, and make sure that you're being very concise and clear on what that boundary is. Um, Difficulty focusing or prioritizing. This can be a sign that you're not asserting clear limits with your time, energy, and focus. Um, there will be people that they suck the energy from you, right?
Yeah.
And when sometimes that happens, it can make you lose focus. And that's something to pay attention to. If you're around someone that is just constantly sucking the life out of you and draining you, your energy, notice the next time you're around them, how focused are you?
Right.
And that could be a sign that you need to assert more clear limits with them. And then there's also behavioral signs. People pleasing. How many have been a people pleaser, or are currently a people pleaser? Saying yes when you actually want to say no. That is a behavioral sign of there needs to be a boundary there. Allie, I saw that you raised your hand. Do you have a question?
No, that was my response to you asking who's a people
Oh.
pleaser.
Oh, that was quick. I like it.
Love that. Great.
That was cute.
Silent acknowledgement. All right.
Love it. Love it.
She got called out on it silently.
Love that.
I love
So
it.
yeah, just recognizing that avoidance or withdrawal. If you are constantly avoiding someone or certain situations, that is a huge behavioral sign that that's a boundary, or that's a boundary that's being crossed. So paying attention to when you're finding yourself avoiding certain situations, certain people, or if you feel more withdrawn from them, that is a sign that you either need to set a boundary there, or you need to be a little more clear on your boundary and be assertive with that boundary. So I have kind of a little exercise here for everyone. It's what's my limit? So I'm going to ask you to take a moment and think about some situations in your life in different areas: work, family, relationships, even social obligations. And I want you to ask yourself, when do I feel overwhelmed or drained? What situations make me feel frustrated or resentful? And just write down at least like 2 or 3 instances where you felt your boundaries were being tested. So where do you feel overwhelmed or drained? And maybe what are some situations that make you feel frustrated or resentful? And like I said, this could be with work, with family, romantic relationships, and or social obligations. So if you've thought of some of these are your limits. These are where your boundaries are being tested and not respected. And this is where you may need to actually reinforce your boundaries, or especially if you've tried reinforcing them, you've had these conversations over and over again, this may be where you need to remove whoever's crossing your boundaries, or remove yourself from an environment, or remove the environment itself from your life. Any questions on that from anyone? Okay.
I mean, it's hard to do sometimes, like, especially if it's depending on like what family member, right? Because it's most of the time I feel like a close family member. For me,
Yeah.
it's probably more my mom, with just a lot of things that, you know, we disagree on from my childhood. And I think that is, you know, I don't know if that's like every mother-daughter relationship or not, but I feel like it probably is close to it.
Quite a few, yes.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of it.
It's asserting those boundaries.
But it's hard, right? Because she's old and like I have to have sympathy also.
It's
So
still
like how
showing
do I draw that?
respect.
Right. But how do I draw the different, like it okay. You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Yes,
you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a little
question.
Yes.
What if it's a parent's friend and they're overstepping? How do you manage that? Because I had that at the hospital
Mm.
2 weekends ago with my mom's best friend inserting herself into our family stuff, and I went off on her at the hospital. So I
And in a
overstepped my boundary.
situation, well, yes, but that's also a very heightened situation that you were in because you're at the hospital, and I'm assuming a loved one was very sick and or passed. And that's very intense and that's very personal too, right? But in a situation like that, it's still showing respect, but politely saying, this is really a family matter. I appreciate that you're here supporting my mom, who is having an emotional time right now with the situation, but this is really between us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
yeah, my mom was like welcoming it and was there for it and wanted her to be there when clearly like no one else did other than my mom.
you can also say that, like, this is really not for you to be here. Hi, thank you for joining.
This is a really heavy topic right now. No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm here for it.
I'm glad that you asked.
So your mom, I'm super nosy too though. But so what, your mom was supporting this person?
So it's like my mom's best friend. Okay. So long story
What
short,
is it? Okay.
Grandma was in the hospital, grandpa passed.
See, emotional time, very, very
Mhm.
personal.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, like
And
Stephanie said.
everyone was at the hospital, and every single time I would try to have any kind of time with my grandma, she was always there. And like I made it clear I didn't want her there, but she still continued to come. And like even my dad and my uncle were like, why the fuck is she here? Sorry, I'm cussing.
It's okay.
I like it. What do you, okay, but I feel like you have a theory. So what's your theory of the reason why she was there?
Because she's lonely, I think.
Okay.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't know. So you're talking about boundaries, and like I tried to, lay some out and be like, look, we as a family need to be here, and
Mhm.
stuff's going on.
And
So don't overstep. Only allow like my
the
dad.
thing is, in that situation, because you're at a hospital, right? She's not a family member. She's a
Right.
friend, but she's not a family member. If she continues to show up at that point, now, obviously, this has already happened in past, but in that situation, you could go to the hospital administration and ask them to ask her to leave because this is for family only.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's how that, and it may upset your mom, right? But asking your mom to understand, like, this is just family, and I live in New York. I don't get a lot of time with grandma. I would like to be able to spend time with grandma and be here to comfort grandma when grandpa just passed. And this person is cutting into my family time. And so if it continues, then you can go to the hospital administration. And just like I had mentioned, removing the environment, removing a person, that could be a way that you assert that boundary and enforce it by having hospital administration ask that person to leave because they're not family.
Yeah.
And obviously not, even though your mom wanted her there, that doesn't mean that everyone else wants her there. And it is a family time. So that could be something to think about future wise, is going above your mom. Because it's not just about your mom, it's about you two and your relationship with your grandma. Your dad there and your uncle there and family coming together.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, I don't know, everybody knows it's a personal time. I feel like people in any situation overstepping their boundary into a personal family matter is never welcome. It shouldn't be placed above all of the family members, no matter what it is, because it's our last moments or whatever the situation is. It can be sensitive for different reasons. And either way, I think close family members shouldn't have to explain that in those moments to people that don't have any skin in the game anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Stephanie, go back to your
Yeah.
schedule for the
Sorry.
day. I apologize.
I've had one. Listen,
All
you guys.
good.
I've had like one-on-ones with Stephanie for like a year. She's been my therapist basically. So I
Yes.
just am there.
Yes. So some boundary setting practice. So we actually have for you to practice this, right? So it's going to be an interactive exercise, a little bit of role play. So we're going to practice setting a boundary in a hypothetical scenario. And this could be a situation where someone asks too much of you. They're invading your personal space, or they're expecting more than you can actually give. So I ask you to imagine a real life situation where you have struggled to set a boundary. If you have pen and paper handy, you can write out how would you respond if you were confident and clear in expressing your needs. So an example could be if a coworker asks you to take on an extra project at work and you are already feeling overwhelmed, how would you assert your boundary politely but firmly? So you're going to acknowledge the situation. You're going to clearly express your limit, your boundary. And you can even offer an alternative if necessary. For example, like, I can't do this right now, but I'd be happy to help at a later time, for example. So give you a couple minutes for.
Okay, so when you say acknowledge
Yeah.
the situation, you mean like a situation, like a work situation, or
Any situation. The example here was a work situation. So like in this one, you can acknowledge the situation as in, I appreciate that you have an extra project that you're needing help on. But unfortunately right now, I'm not able to help you, but I'd be happy to help you at a later time.
okay, so
week.
somebody's asking me for help on something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're asking me for help, but I don't have the time to do it, and I have to explain to them that I don't have that time.
Right. And so you're acknowledging the situation. Let's give me an example that you have of something that you have experienced where someone, like a real life situation where you've struggled to set a boundary.
Okay. So I think the hardest people for me are obviously my siblings, probably, and my mom, like the closest people to me, because I feel like they're family. So I'll just like anything they need or want, I'll give into, even though sometimes I don't want to do it. My car example. So my mom's vehicle is like constantly breaking down, and I feel really bad for her. I really do. But I also am an outside sales representative. So I travel around. My car is my office.
Yeah.
So when she's constantly asking for my vehicle and not respecting my time, I usually feel bad and I give in to her, whereas really I need to be working. And then that gives me major anxiety. And so I'm not setting that boundary because she's my mother and I feel like she needs help, but I also need to work and it's my car and I pay for it. Does that make sense?
And that's one of those emotional signs that you're
Right.
feeling guilty, right?
Okay.
Because you're not able to give it. So that is a signal that that is a boundary for you.
Okay.
And then, so let's say your mom asks to borrow your vehicle and you have to use it. And this week you're going to be on the road 4 of the 5 days.
Yeah.
Hypothetical situation, right? I understand, Mom, that you need to use my vehicle. However, I have to use my vehicle for my job.
Yeah.
Monday through Thursday. Friday, I have an administration day where I'm going to be working from home. So you could use it on Friday from this time to this time.
Right.
So you're acknowledging the situation that she needs to use your vehicle. And you're also expressing your limit your boundary that you have to use your vehicle. It's for your job Monday through Thursday. And then you're also giving an alternative that she could use it on Friday when you're doing your administrative work at home and you're not going to be on the road going to the different locations, for work.
Got it. Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah. And not every boundary needs an alternative. There are some boundaries that this is just what it is. I'm not going to allow you to.
Wait, say that again.
Borrow
Not
my
all
car.
boundaries. What? Not all boundaries need an alternative.
Yeah. Not all boundaries
good. I
need
like
an
it.
alternative.
I like that.
Because sometimes it just is what it is. And that's the end of it. Period. I've taken in someone, helping them right now, and I have a boundary that they have to find somewhere else by the end of January. There is no alternative. This is my boundary. It's set. I've done what I can, for it'll be over a month, but that's my boundary. There is no alternative, and that's okay. So not everyone needs alternatives, and it's something that you're going to have to recognize, and being able to listen to your intuition, paying attention to the different emotional signs, the physical signs. You're going to know whether it is something that could use an alternative or not.
Okay.
And it's just practicing and learning that. All right, so some clarity here. Reflect on past boundary challenges. What happened in a situation? Melanie, do you have one, like you were saying with your mom needing to borrow your vehicle?
Right. Well, I mean, that's like if I have to go through past ones, like if I have reflect on past boundary challenges, I think it's different as a child. I don't know. I think that things that happen in my past, is that what it's asking? So reflect on past boundary challenges. What happened in the situation?
So
how did it make you feel emotionally?
It could be any kind of boundary that was difficult for you to hold, kind of thing.
Okay, so my last relationship, right, was something that I've never ever been through in my life. And it took, I think, this is the reason I think we talked every single morning of my life when I needed a counselor and somebody to kind of life coach me. And that's what started this, right? Was somebody to kind of kick me out of that, because my boundaries had been crossed so many times that I literally couldn't even function. I couldn't, and I'm not kidding you guys, I literally couldn't type an email. And it took her stepping in for a lot of those things that had been crossed that literally caused multiple physical reactions. And that's how bad boundaries can be crossed multiple times to cause an actual physical reaction. That's literally something that's very real on God that she had to step in and actually do for me. My boundaries have been crossed so many times. That I had physical, where I've been treated for 2 years for PTSD from traumatic experiences.
Those boundaries that person crossed with you, right? So,
and it's multiple, but they came, a lot of them came after the fact, right?
That you
a lot of them
realized
came like after, right?
After the fact that you didn't really realize. So something that you can journal, right, is reflecting on how people, situations have challenged your boundaries, crossed your boundaries, and how did that make you feel emotionally? How did that make you feel physically, mentally?
Because it has an emotional reaction and there's a physical reaction sometimes to us.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where people, I think, unless you actually experience some kind of, I think everybody has boundaries, and that's really just to keep us all safe, right?
Yeah.
For what you want to put up with, I want to put up with, what we're like, we already know we don't like, whatever you don't like. It's just, it's small. Sometimes they're small. Sometimes you're just like, I don't know, that annoys the shit out of me. And I don't want to do this every day. You already know
Yep.
that about yourself, that you don't want to fucking put up with it. And that's okay. As long as people are honest, I think that people can be okay with that. But
And here I
I
think
think you
is a
learn your
really
boundaries
good,
over time.
I think you would give a really good example here, Melanie, because
Okay.
when you were in that past relationship,
Yeah.
where you were at mentally, emotionally from being kind of torn down, you didn't have the confidence to really assert those boundaries. Whereas
No, not at all.
now, where
Yeah,
you're
not
at
at all.
now,
That had been
you're
taken
so
from me.
much more mentally stronger and confident
Absolutely.
that you're a lot more assertive in your
Yeah.
boundaries and you stand up when
Yes.
anyone's trying to cross those, right? So
But it's taken
recognizing
a
that.
lot of time. Yeah, it's taken
yeah.
taken an everyday session with you. Multiple. I've had a life coach, obviously.
Yeah.
Plus, I've had doctor. You know, it's taken honestly a lot, but I think it's taken being able to speak to one person every day about different things that come in, because sometimes you just. I think the human body's a ridiculously amazing thing.
Mhm.
And this shit that your body can do to protect itself is unbelievably ridiculous. Proven by science, doctors, everything, therapist, life coach, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's all in cahoots with each other to make sure that the body runs smoothly.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievably ridiculous way if you let boundaries, like there's a book, so I'm a firm believer, if you guys ever watched Oprah, I'm a firm believer that on you teach people how to treat you. And when you let those little things go, they can snowball. It's like that snowball effect where like, oh, it's this tiny
Yeah.
little thing, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's where you're
And
not
those are part of
setting your boundary
right, exactly. Yes.
and you let that slide, then other things start to slide as well.
Right. And then you teach people how to treat you. And then all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck? Excuse my French. But you're like,
Yes.
what the fuck? And you're like, I don't know. You thought it was fine this whole time. Now you don't like it. But I
Yep.
think those are the moments sometimes, and you learn it little by little, right? Because when you're younger, you will put up with way more than you do when you're older because you've learned boundaries on shit that you do not like.
Yeah.
We just don't realize it's happening until we actually talk about it.
Absolutely. So in
Right.
identifying your needs and your limits, some things to think about is, what are your top 3 things that are non-negotiable for you?
Yeah.
It could, your time, privacy, emotional space. What are those? What are your top 3 things that are non-negotiable for you? Those are some limits and boundaries there. How can you start honoring those needs in your relationships and daily life and start putting those into practice? Boundaries are a part of self-care. They are very healthy, normal, and necessary, even though a lot of people try to act like boundaries are nothing. Like they want to cross them. They think that they're supposed to be crossed and tested. And it's very healthy to have boundaries.
I think it shows emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we're getting close to wrapping up here. I know we're at 8:35, but so building confidence and setting boundaries, overcoming the guilt and fear of conflict. One of the biggest barriers to setting boundaries is the fear of conflict or feeling guilty. And I want to talk about how to release those feelings and recognize that setting boundaries is a form of self-respect, not selfishness. And a self-empowerment tip is reassure yourself that by setting these boundaries, you're not only taking care of yourself, but you're also fostering healthier relationships with others. So I'm gonna have you do kind of a boundary affirmation exercise here. So if you'll close your eyes and just take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. And you can repeat these out loud if you'd like, or to yourself. I have the right to say no. My needs are important. I deserve respect and care. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. These are some boundary affirmations that you could say to yourself daily. And it's a good reminder. I have the right to say no, especially if you're a people pleaser and you're a yes woman, yes man. You say yes to everything, even though you literally cannot take on one more thing. Practice saying, I have the right to say no. It's okay to say no. I get to say no. And this will help you to gain that confidence and maintaining your boundaries and asserting those. So a couple of key takeaways. Your healthy boundaries are crucial for emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Setting boundaries can be empowering and improves relationships. Practicing saying no, expressing your needs clearly, and honoring your limits. And for tonight, I'm going to ask that you write down one boundary that you are going to set today, whether it's at work, with a friend, or family. How are you going to enforce that boundary? And then commit to practicing this boundary setting regularly and reflect on how it feels to protect your needs. And then just a final thought that I want to leave with you is setting healthy boundaries is a lifelong practice. The more you practice, the easier it will become to assert your needs and protect your well-being without guilt. If you have the power to create and maintain boundaries that honor who you are and what you need, you have that power.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions from anyone? Well, I want to thank you for joining me today for setting healthy boundaries. I hope that you found this session insightful and that you now feel a little more empowered to recognize, communicate, and maintain your boundaries in all areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ready to dive deeper into boundary setting or would like some personalized support, I'm here to help. You can reach out to me by my email, phone. I'm happy to explore with you how to build a plan that is tailored to your needs. And then next week, join me again. And we're going to be going over exploring polyamory in open relationships next week on Tuesday at 8 p.m.
I got questions already.
Okay.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I just have a lot of questions. I'm not kidding.
No, yeah.
I don't know.
Next
I've
week,
got
I
already
think it's going to
questions.
be
I'm not
fun.
even Hold on a second. You can't throw that on me like that. It's 8:40. And now you want to talk about this? I'm gonna